What's going on, guys? Caleb here. Just another quick morning monologue for you. I saw someone talking about this today, and it really struck a note with me. So I wanted to kind of just, I don't know, marinate in it for a little bit. This guy said depression is a luxury, and that makes sense. I mean, I think about it, and I would describe myself at certain times in my life as depressed, right? In that my behavior, um, matched up with what we traditionally think of as depression. I would get out of bed late. I'd have really no motivation or drive or desire to get out of bed. I dreaded starting the day, and I just fuck around all day. I was really not very productive, and the whole time feeling bad about myself for not being productive. But instead of doing things that would get me ahead in life, I'd spend what little energy I had. And that's another thing. I felt like I had nothing to give as far as energy, as drive, and I'd spend the little bit I had engaging in these really high dopamine behaviors that helped me feel a little bit better for a little while longer, right? But it'd be a quick spike, so it'd be things like fucking playing video games and smoking pot and watching porn and things that it required like zero effort or really minimal effort for a really big reward. And these are like textbook addiction behaviors, right? That's basically what addiction is too, is you're engaging in dopamine seeking behavior because or until your body's response to dopamine becomes so blunted that regular feedback loop of reward of work to reward, you feel good about the work that you did, you work, you get a reward, that just doesn't work anymore. I see depression is really similar. So anyway, depression is a privilege. And I thought about that and I realized like, yeah, you have to be in a privileged position to be able to engage in those depressive actions, right? And this guy went on to say, if where I'm from, you don't get to be depressed. You have bills to pay, you have responsibilities, you're going to get thrown out on the street if you don't, step up and do what you have to do to survive. And I thought, fuck yeah. Like a lot of us in modern Western society don't understand what that's like. Even those of us who are not very well off. I mean, I'm not, rolling in the dough or anything like that. I have to, make sure I have enough money each month to pay my, all my bills and make sure that I can continue to live the way I live. But even for those of us in the working class and who are kind of living closer to paycheck, we still are so incredibly privileged in that there are systems in place that will, for the most part, keep us afloat even when times get tough. And so we can afford to indulge in our depression and indulge in our anxiety and indulge in our just exhaustedness with the world in our lives, right? And I mean, it's not a secret why this is the case for a lot of us. Modern life is brutal. It's easy, but it's brutal. Being in front of screens and social media all day, we're not getting much sunlight exposure. We're constantly stuck in this scrolling loop, which is another high dopamine activity, right? And so, of course, we're getting depressed. And all the meanwhile, like the middle class is getting squeezed out. Things are getting more expensive. We're not making any more money. We're losing things like the securities that people in America, at least, have taken for granted for the last several decades. Healthcare is getting more and more expensive and less companies are offering it. More and more companies are choosing to contract 1099 their employees or their workers instead of having W-2 employees, because then they don't have to pay as much in taxes. Like, people are getting squeezed out. And so it makes sense that we're all exhausted and just getting fed up with things. But I think at least, it made me pause and reflect and look at myself and go, wow, even with all these things in place, I'm still so privileged that I was able to go a couple months of barely getting shit done, just barely floating by and just wallowing in my depression and self-pity. And there are people in the world who don't have that option and who have it much, much worse than just depression and still have to get up and fucking go to work, like go hustle and do everything in their power to make sure that they can stay afloat, And I've talked about this before on like Instagram videos and shit. Talked about, I try to instill that mindset in myself when I want to do do work, right? Like it's the same kind of concept as in the 12 steps, people dealing with addiction, they say we needed to pursue this with all the desperation of a drowning man. And I try to put myself in that mindset whenever I have to go do something, you know. If I was truly desperate, if my life depended on this or my standard of living depended on this, you know, would I half-ass it or would I fucking go all in? And that's basically what this guy's talking about. At least I think. And you know, I can try to remind myself to instill that mindset as much as I want, but there's still just like there's a difference between trying to put yourself there and physically being there. Like, no, you will get evicted if you don't go out and hustle for the money that you need. You know, you will lose your relationship if you don't start doing deep fucking work and introspection and looking at the things about yourself that you don't want to look at so that you can be a better partner and communicator and all that shit. Like, desperation is an incredibly powerful tool, and humans are really capable of just about anything, right? Anything we haven't figured out yet, I believe that we will, given enough time. Humans are remarkable problem solvers, and we are best when our lives depend on our ability to solve problems. That's when we perform our best. That's when we create the most amazing things. Yeah, so I got an interview to do now, so I don't want to keep this going too long, but those are my thoughts for the day. And what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? What's your experience with this? I'd love to hear about it. So put that stuff in the comments. Send me a message if it's private. Like, fuck, dude, I want to hear what you have to say about it. And yeah, until next time, guys, have a great day.